Hey everybody, it's just a quick video. I wasn't planning on recording today. It seems to kind of be like a recurring thing from my last videos. However, I was studying a few days ago about the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman, and that's found in the Old Testament in the book of John, chapter 4. And in this story, Jesus is tired and he stops at Jacob's well. When he gets there, there's a Samaritan woman that's there. Jesus asks the woman for water, and because of the way that the culture was set up, Jews and Samaritans weren't really on speaking terms. And so the woman who was a Samaritan was surprised that Jesus, a Jew, was talking to her. And immediately she's like, why, like basically, why are you asking me for anything? I'm a Samaritan woman, you're a Jew. And while I originally wanted to read the whole story, it's just a little bit longer than I feel like the video would allow for me to read and not break down at the same time. So as I'm paraphrasing, but I really just want you guys to go back and read it. Chapter 4 of the book of John. That's the fourth book of the gospel, like the fourth book of the New Testament. And anything that I read is usually in New Living Translation, unless it's stated otherwise. So back to paraphrasing. So she's going and she's talking to Jesus, the Jew, and Jesus asked her to get water, and her response is kind of like I said earlier, why are you talking to me? I'm a Samaritan woman, you're a Jew. And when I first read that, I didn't really see anything wrong with it. And then as I read it a couple more times, like I felt like it was layers on top of layers of different things that were wrong with that text. And when the way that I heard it in my mind, like, why are you asking me for a drink? Like, I'm a Samaritan woman. Why are you asking me for a drink? I felt like she counted herself unworthy because she was a Samaritan. Like, whatever stereotypes and stigmas that were on Samaritans at that time, and because she was encountering the presence of a Jew, she automatically took on those stereotypes and things. And I thought about how many of us do that. Like, if we are feeling inadequate or insecure or something, sometimes we project what we believe is thought about us to that person that we're talking to or in that environment as a safety mechanism. Like, if I put myself down before you do, then there's no room for you to do it. And I kind of felt like that's what the lady was doing in the story. She was projecting her insecurities on Jesus. And then, but Jesus replies, this is verse 10, if only you knew the gift God has for you and who you are speaking to, I would give you living water. Oh, you would ask me and I would give you living water. I felt like I was like saying in this, like, I have more for you. I have so much more than what you're trying to obtain. She's trying to get a natural resource, water. Water was for the livestock. It was for them, their living, bathing, all of this from this well. And it's just like sometimes we're so focused on trying to get the tangible things of life, we don't see all that God has for us. Like, God has so much more for us, but we are so focused on like our house, our rent, our mortgages, our cars, our notes, our jobs, children's daycare, food, things that we actually need or want. But we are focused on that we don't see the assignments and the things that God has for us. And he's just like, if you only knew the thing that you're worried about right now is so little and compared to what I have for you, you wouldn't even be coming to me. And so I thought that was kind of cool. But she goes into telling Jesus, like, you don't got no rope. Like, you come here, you ask me for water. Like, even if I wanted to give you water, like, you came here, you're unprepared. You don't have a rope, you don't have a bucket. Like, what am I doing? And Jesus kind of dismisses that. And then in verse 11, she goes into basically like, and who are you? Like, she questions Jesus' identity. And like, do you think that you're greater than Jacob, our ancestor? In my mind, I'm like, yeah, he's greater. He doesn't have to think about it. He's Jesus. Like, he's Jesus. But we know that he's Jesus. She don't know he's Jesus yet. But he doesn't reply. And she asked him, like, do you think what you have to offer is better? And I thought that that was like a really powerful question. We may not say that to Jesus with our words. We may not say that to like God when we're praying to him, but I think that we sometimes say that with our action. Like, God, do you think that what you have to offer is better? And the way that we do that is by not releasing what God has for us. We hold on to what we think is better because we can't see how God is going to give us better. And so when she's saying a lot of what we have thought in the past, like, do you think what you have to offer is better? And I was just like, okay, all right, Lord, I see what you're doing here. And so Jesus replies, and he goes, anyone who drinks of this water will soon become let me read that again. Jesus replies, anyone who drinks of this water will soon become thirsty again, but those who drink of the water that I give will never be thirsty again. It becomes a fresh, bubbling spring within them and giving them eternal life. That's John 4:13 when Jesus is replying to her. And so I was just like, man, that the what I really heard was like, you can't quench a spiritual need with a natural resource. What she needed was for her soul. What she needed was for her spirit. But she was trying to quench that with the water from the well because she didn't know that she had that void that only Jesus can fill. And when she heard that, she got the revelation though, because she was like, but give me that water. Like, where I get this water, how I get this water. I need this water. Because I will never have to come back to this well at noon. I'm never going to have to come out here. It's hot. I'm already avoiding people and all this. The moment she asks, God, like, he answers her in a way that doesn't really seem like an answer. He tells her to go get her husband when he knows that she ain't even got a husband, because he later on in the verse he tells her, like, you ain't even got a husband. You had 5, and the one that you living with you're not even married to. You shacking. But the way that Jesus said it to her was like in so much love that she didn't get offended. She wasn't offended by his speech. He said it in love. And I think because he said it in love, she received what he had to say. And then the woman that was at the well trying to avoid everybody, she asked for this water. God gives her the revelation that the water is not actually water. He tells her about herself in a loving, kindly manner. She goes out, she gets all the people, and she's just like, y'all gotta hear about this man. Come see this man who told me everything that I ever done, which lets us know that the what's recorded wasn't the full extent of the conversation, but before she does that, she's having a conversation because she's like, you must be a prophet. Like, she recognizes that he's a man of God, even though she doesn't recognize him as Jesus because of the word of knowledge he gave her. And so I think that's part of, like, I was about to go into something else, but I'm not. But I thought about how when you get a prophetic word, or you get a confirmation or a word of knowledge, and you know that it's something that only you've talked to God about, like, it's encouraging even if it's addressing things that are not comfortable. She's not offended that he told her about herself. She ends up asking him because she recognizes who he is about worship, and because they had different ideas of what worship is. And I thought about how that's so much like the church today. We have so many ideas of how worship is supposed to look that we forget to actually worship. because we're trying to do performance-based worship. We're trying to keep it, I don't know, I think of like in a box. Like, we're just going to raise our hands. We're not going to bother the people next to us and whatever. But Jesus is like, a time is coming where none of that's going to even matter. Those who worship me must worship me in spirit and truth. Those who worship me in spirit and truth, the Father is going to receive. And I thought about that. That God is looking for those who are going to fully worship Him. I know that the way that I worship is unconventional to a lot of people, but it's in truth. It's how the Lord leads me to worship, and there's so much freedom there. And I can literally do a whole nother video on worship and freedom. And once you've experienced freedom in worship, it's really hard to just go back to just barely moving your lips, barely crying out to God and standing there. It's very hard once you've experienced true freedom in worship. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to really just break down the outline of what happened in the story, because I think that sometimes we read the story, but we don't know how to apply it. And I think that if we apply the story's principles by the outline of what's actually happening in the story, then it becomes more practical to us. So in the story, the Samaritan woman, she went out to meet fill a need, which was water. She needed to get water. She had an encounter with Jesus. Jesus started talking to her, and He asked her for what she had. Like, God's not going to ask us for anything that we don't already have. She then deemed herself unworthy because of who she was. And a lot of times when we go to God, sometimes we feel like we are unworthy, or we go with false humilities, or we don't go at all, and we go to the things of the world because we just don't feel like we're worthy to enter in God's presence because of what we've done, who we've been with, or where we've been, or our heritage. We just deem ourselves unworthy. But Jesus spoke in love, and He let her know that He wasn't an ordinary man, and what she's done has no effect on how this conversation is going to play out. Who she thinks she is not going to affect how this conversation is going to play out. And I thought that was wonderful. He states what he has to offer. She accepts it by making a request, and that's her accepting it. Jesus tells her what she's done, and He ministers to her. I really think that in that time, He's just spending the time to minister to her. And then he commissions her into worshiping and stuff. And I think that then Jesus reveals His identity to her, and later on in the chapter. And this is the thing that really just stood out to me. She's at this well because she don't want to be bothered. She's at this well because it's not the cool of the day when everybody else. This is her at the well avoiding people. She meets somebody. I don't know if y'all ever been in a state I always seem to run into people I know, where the Lord usually calls me to do something when I just don't want to be bothered, or I'm like, God, I didn't comb my hair today. I just did not plan on leaving the house, and you want me to go over and pray for this lady. Cool. Anywho, I feel like God, He does that. He He uses us when we don't. Sometimes when we're not in the best of states. And I think it's just so that we can be like, okay, we not that. It's not about us. It's about the Lord, so that we can surrender in that. I did start trying to leave the house, making sure that I'm always semi-presentable. Sometimes I just put a hat on. I'm not going to lie. The hats do go on. But anywho, back to the story. It says that she leaves the jar at the well and she goes into the town. And I think that jar, the reason that they put it in there for me, it just symbolized her leaving all of the things that she came with at the well and leaving better, because she was no longer trying to fill the thirst need. She was full. I felt like her leaving the jar at the well symbolized her leaving her guilt, her rejection, her unworthiness, her failures, whatever, her immorality, like just the fact that she was impure or whatever, like her sin. I felt like it was her leaving her sin and having that encounter for the living, like the encounter with Jesus gave her the exchange of living water. She leaves with her new identity and confidence, and she goes back, not to be like, I'm stunning on him or whatever the word is now, but she goes back and she's just like, come see a man that has told me everything I've ever done. Come see a man who has changed me, who has healed my heart, who has broke the condemnation and guilt off of my life. Like, come see this man. Like, what he's done for me, I know that he'll do for you. And I think that if we take that into our daily lives, then we can then help other people have those similar exchanges. I felt like she went to go tell the whole town, like, don't tell me why God can't use you. Like, he used me. And she was a well-known woman, which is probably why she was avoiding. But the thing that really just got me was, like, the fact that she went with so much confidence. She goes back into the town. She gets these people. They follow her. Like, they have the choice to be like, no, 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 no. We know who you are. We good. But they follow her to Jesus, and the whole town gets saved. Jesus stays with them 2 days, ministering to them. And when she came back, the disciples were like, oh, Jesus, like, we need to eat, they left because they was hungry, which I respect, because I don't know if I could. I'm not at the point where I can do things when I'm hungry. I need to eat. It's better for everybody. So the disciples were like me. We went and got food, and Jesus still at this point has not ate. He was already tired when he sat at the well, but he poured still, and he gave what he had, and because he's Jesus and he's God, he gave. And when the disciples came back, like, I think it was like in verse 34, they were like, basically, did someone bring you food while we was gone? Like, did you eat already? Like, how you got this energy? And Jesus tells them, like, my nourishment doesn't come from food. It comes from doing the will of God. Like, when I do the will of God, then I'm filled. It fills me. And I thought that was so cool, because I'm just like, it's kind of like when you're fasting. Some people don't like to fast because they think that, like, not eating is the worst thing ever. But when you fast and you're really taking those breaks, and you're what do you call it, like, you're really just not, like, you're replacing God's word, the bread of life, with your actual bread in life, you're not hungry, you're full. Like, there's some days where I'm studying and I forget to eat because, like, I've been actually studying, and I'm like, oh, I probably should eat, but I'm not even hungry. I'm eating out of just knowing that I need to eat. Sorry, my arm is like hurting right now. It's very strange. It's a distraction, but that's really all I had. I just wanted to share that. It was my thoughts on John chapter 4, the Samaritan woman. I would be really interested in seeing what revelations you got while reading this chapter for yourself, or just by watching the video. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day or night, or whenever this is taking place. And I'll talk to you guys next time. So read John chapter 4, verses 1 through 42. And that's where everything is. But or you can read the whole chapter. It goes into something different. But all right, I'm wrapping it up. Bye.